I think so. I got it. So it's interesting that, as I view it, for the Treasar, most of the time you can ask, I could see them asking, quoting a pasuk and then saying, from which sefer, So it's interesting that I was reading recently that there's what is kind of unique in Habakkuk. Okay, so sorry, that the material today will be on Habakkuk, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Not all of Zechariah, most of it. Okay, that's the material. So the question is, what is, highlights or it characterizes Habakkuk compared to others? It's something very interesting. This is the question. What happens is I don't remember where I read it, that Habakkuk, to a degree, sounds like Tehillim. Why? As it ends off Lamazech bin Ginotai, right? And also has Selah a few times, which sounds like Tehillim. Okay, and you don't have then any other of Treasar. So it's something to remember. Well, also, what primarily does Habakkuk talk about? It's a question. What primarily is the noseh of Habakkuk? And the answer is, it's basically talking against Nebuchadnezzar about the Bavlim, that they're going to get their just reward, or just punishment. Now, as far as Haggai, there are many things. Yes, Yitzhak, you have a question? Okay. So I mentioned to you that it's interesting. There is a similarity, but not exactly the same, between Ezra Perek Gimel and Haggai Perek Bet. What is that? There is a similarity. Not 100% similarity, but there's similarity. Okay. What is at the end? If I recall correctly, Yitzhak, go ahead.
All right, they're both about Zerubbabel and the going up to build the second Beit HaMikdash.
No, that's Perek Gimel of Ezra says, the people who were crying, right? And some were crying with, because they remember what it was like in the Beit HaMikdash HaRishon. They still remember that, So you have in Perek Bet, in Haggai, Gadol Kvod Beit HaRishon. It's on the right-hand page. Hold on.
גדול יהיה כבוד הבית הזה האחרון מן הראשון. פרק ב' פסוק ג'.
Right. So what happens is it's kind of a certain similarity. Interesting that you have, Almina Amar, right? Keep on going. Almina Amar, V'samticha kachotam. V'samticha kachotam. Almina Amar. So I have a trick question, honestly.
I'll put you as a, how do you say chotam? Like a...
It's a signet ring.
A what?
Signet ring. Signet ring. Chotam. This is like a...
stamp also, I guess you could say, no?
Right? What?
Stamp? The stamp? It's not exactly.
No. A signature. Chotam is a signature, like chatima, but chotam is really the signet ring, because that is the stamp. Yes, Yitzchak.
Zerubbabel.
Yeah, so officially the answer would be Zerubbabel, but in reality, it happens to be from the Pshat understanding, it's really a Zera down the line from Zerubbabel, you know?
There's also in Shir HaShirim, right? Simeni kachotam al libecha.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in the material, that part.
He says that if Yechanya is like Chosam al Yad Yamini, I'll take him off. And now Chagai is saying his grandson Yechanya, his grandson Zerubbabel, is going to get put back as a Chosam.
Well, first of all, Shir HaShirim is not in the material.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. This is an interesting question. What did Chagai ask a certain group of people? It was like almost a test. Okay. And the question you could say is, I could even stretch it out. Did this group pass the test? Right. Yeah, Lila.
It was Kohanim, and I think they did pass the test.
Yitzchak.
So he asked them about B'sar Kodesh, if someone holds it in his cloak, and touches something else, will it become Kodesh? And then he asked if someone holds Tamei Nefesh, touches all of these, will they become Tamei? And it's Machlokas Amoraim whether they passed.
I didn't understand that it's machloket, you know. That to me, it reminds me of when I studied Bar Ilan computers. So there's a thing called Marechet Hafala, which is operating system. So the Yisha Yuval asked the question. The test was you have to answer 2 out of 3 questions. That's the final 2 out of 3 questions. And you have to prove it. So one of the questions was, they say that a computer without an operating system is a dummy. So if you answer incorrectly, you just failed the test. So what happens is, I understand it, that they didn't pass. Meaning, he asked them 2 questions, and the nosei was Tuma b'tahara. Okay, that's really the nosei of Tuma b'tahara, the Kohanim. Kohanim has to know, they have to know this stuff in the Beit HaMikdash, right? And what happens is, he says, V'asher yekrivu sham tamehu. So Chagai says, in both cases, it's tamei. And the first thing they said, Vayanu hakun vayomru lo. They said, no, it's not tamei. And Chagai is saying, no, both of them are tamei. That's how, at least that's how I understood it. Second question, they answered correctly. You know, it says, and the second one is Vayanu hakohanim vayomru yitma. Okay, but the first one question said no, and I think they were wrong. So he's trying to tell them no, both of them are tamei. That's how I understood it. Okay.
The Marim Psachim brings down 2 different days.
I'm just looking again. I'm not going on the Gemara. I'm just based upon the text. You know. By the way, it's the previous question I'd asked about the similarity to Ezra Perigil. It says, Mi bachem hanishar asher ra'a et habayit hazeh bechvodo harishon. So that is the similarity, you know, not gadol yabayit, you know. Okay. Now I could see that the questions could be in today's material. Okay, there are dates. For example, Matai Husad Hechal Beit Hashem. That's just one example.
And
okay,
Yitzchak, is it connected to Hanukkah? What's the date?
Am I supposed to give?
It's kind of a trick question because it implies different things, different places. But you really say the 24th of Elul.
24th of the 9th month, I believe it says.
But first it says that they began.
I think the answer would be Chavdalad Kislev.
Which is the day before Hanukkah, which is
the day before
I was
Hanukkah.
implying.
Yeah, but in Parak
what
Aleph
happens
it
is-
makes it
yep.
sound not that way.
You have, for example, ready? It says you have in Parak Aleph, the last pasuk, B'yom 24 lachodesh b'shishi b'shnat shtayim l'Yavish HaMelech, and then the very first pasuk, Parak Beis in Chagai, it says B'shvi b'esrem lachodesh, which is Chaf Av Tishrei, Hoshana Rabbah. And it says that's where Mibachem, Mibachem Hanishal Shara. But then if you take a look in Parak Beis pasuk Yud, it says ב-24 לתשיעי בשנת 2 יבש, blah 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 blah, and then ready, it says here, it says outright in Parak Beis pasuk Yud Chet, שימו נא לבבכם מן היום הזה במעלה, מיום 24 לתשיעי, which is כ"ד כסלו, okay, למן היום אשר יוסד היכל השם, שימו לבבכם. So to me, I could be wrong, but I understood it to mean that it's כ"ד כסלו is when they use, אשר יוסד היכל השם. That's how I understood it. Maybe Amichai, I misunderstood it, but that's how I understood it.
You could also understand that, look at what you've been doing from the day that, now on Kaftal Kislev, look at what you've been doing from when you started, which was in Elul.
Hold on. Okay, let's get my Malbim out here. So it's Chagai Parak Beis.
I could just mention that there's a Ma'amar of Rav Yoel bin Nun about Yom Yisud Echad Hashem, and he talks about why the Chashmonaim chose Kafhei Kislev, because it was like the night, the night of, the day after Yom Yisud Echad Hashem. That's why they tried to, make it on the anniversary of Chanukat Bet HaMikdash, Be'etzem Hasheni. They also did the second Chanukat Bet HaMikdash Hasheni, the second dedication on the same date. Which, by the way, if you read Sefer Makkabim, Chidon HaTanakh is not on the Sfarim HaChitzonim, but it says that Kafhei Kislev was actually the anniversary of the Chilul Hashem by the Greek. So perhaps the Greek also read Sefer Chagai, and they tried to, desecrate the temple on that date, and then because of that, the Maccabim rededicated it on the same date. So read Rav Yoel bin Nun. I think it's in Megadim is the name of the. Did all of you buy tickets to Israel, by the way? I have to ask. No,
I'm still trying to get a passport.
Oh, okay, that's good. While Roubi is checking that.
Yeah, I didn't buy a ticket to Israel.
Yeah, well, you have a ticket in Netanya for the Chidon HaTanakh HaArtzi.
For some reason, I don't know why. I think that I have something on the 22nd. That's why.
My brother's getting married the day before, so I don't think they invited you. And there's a Sheva Brachot at our place that evening.
Let's see. Yeah, 1 second. No, it's March. So the 22nd. It's
3
possible
p.m.
that I could do
3 p.m. is
it.
when the Chidon itself starts.
No, but I just have to find where's Heichal HaTarbut,
Yeah, that I can't help you with.
Yeah. No, I think I could do it, by the way. Okay, so what happens is, according
and if you want to watch, by the way, if any of you want to watch it, it's going to be live on television or I mean, I'll send a link out once I have it if you want to watch it live. It's 3 p.m. so it's going to be 9 a.m. because it's a 6-hour difference still, right? Yeah, it's still going to be a 6-hour difference. So 9 a.m. on the
When
East
does
Coast.
Israel change their clock?
25th.
March 25th.
25th.
The end of next week, like Friday morning, 12 days or something like that.
Yeah.
No, 11 days.
בשעה 2, לא? בבוקר.
Yeah,
I think 2 a.m.
2 a.m.
According to yes, according to the Malbim, as I understand it, it is like I understood it, that it is Chaf Daled of Yom Husan. But you have other dates that just in general. So this is a semi-trick question. Who said, Shuva elai ba'ashuva alechem? Listen carefully. Shuva elai ba'ashuva alechem. Yitzchak?
Zechariah?
So, hold on. I don't want this. The answer is no. That's why I asked it. It's a trick question. If you take a look at
What does it mean in English?
Malachi Perek Gimel.
What does it mean in English?
Return to me and I will return to you. Okay, to Bnei Israel. So what happens is, why did I say this? Notice I said carefully, Shuva elai va'ashuva aleichem. Okay, so first of all, there are no words in between any of them. As a Shuva elai va'ashuva aleichem. So if you take a look at Malachi Perek Gimel Pasuk Zayin, it says, Limimei avotechem sartem mei chukai lo shmartem shuvu elai va'ashuv alechem amar Hashem tzvaot v'amartem b'mei nashuv. Okay, why did Yitzchak say Zechariah? Excellent. Okay, and this is it's just it could drive a person nuts because it says in Zechariah Perek Aleph Pasuk Gimel. ואמרת עליהם כה אמר אדוני צבאות שובו אליי נאום אדוני צבאות ואשוב עליכם אמר אדוני צבאות. So it's tricky because first of all in Zechariah there are words in between, okay, and it only says ואשוב, not ואשובה עליכם. So this is, you know, a person could really stumble on this. Which, I mean, Yitzchak, I probably would have said the same thing as you, but I'm letting you know that there is a difference, right? Who is going to ride on a, what was it? It's not just to be exact. Come on. Yeah. Who's going to ride on a chamor and Ayir ben Atolot? You know, they talk about that the Muhammad, that the Muslims believe that that their prophet is going to come, you know, on riding on a donkey, something like that. But who, according to our material? Okay. Yitzchak.
The Melech.
Which is, yeah, it says Malkech, but it happens to be Melech HaMashiach, you know. No, it's not Leo. It's the Mashiach. It's Perek Tes Pasuk that, you know. Yeah. Where does it say Badonai Elohim Yiraev Yatzacha חברק חיצו, ואדוני אלוהים בשופר יתקע, והלך בשערות תימן. In which
ברכת שופרות on Rosh Hashanah. They copied it from the siddur.
I know that. That's why I'm asking, but people should realize this. You know, this is taken from, yes, Yitzchak.
Zechariah.
It's Zechariah, yeah. By the way, it's interesting, Amichai, in Hineni He'ani Mimas, right? So it says, V'hamed v'shalom ehavu. Where's that from? Right? And you can't say it's a before a Musaf on the Yamim Nochaim. It would be correct, but it's not what they want to hear. Yitzchak.
Also Zechariah.
Hamza also Zechariah.
It's the end of the pasuk. Tzom ha'revi'i, v'tzom ha'chamishi, v'tzom ha'shvi, v'tzom ha'asiri. Is that the one?
Yes, that is the famous pasuk, because they can ask you, okay, is it tzom ha'revi'i, v'tzom ha'chamishi, v'tzom ha'shvi'i, v'tzom ha'asiri, yeh levet Yehuda l'sason u'simcha u'lemoadim tovim, v'haemet v'hashalom ehavu. So it's interesting that it bothers me, not this asking this question, but bothers me that, for example, okay, that in Slichot, people say, Vayikra b'shem Hashem. That's wrong. It's Vayikra b'shem, although they say Vayikra b'shem Hashem. First, it's not a bet; it's a bet, and it's Vayikra b'shem pause Hashem. It's the same thing here. They'll read person say V'amei v'shalom ehavu. It's ehavu. It's so pasuk on the hay. I mean, it's like Torah. Torah temen natan lanu, Torah temen natan lanu, Torah temen natan lanu, Baruch Hashem bachar banu. So what are you nuts? Banu? Baruch Asher bachar banu. How difficult you can fit those words.
If you watch Chidon Tanakh, the recording from previous, I think it was, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 years ago, Avshalom Kol told the singer he was going to sing Atov 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 Ki lo chalu rachamecha. So he says, no, you don't say Ki lo chalu rachamecha. Ve'amerachem ki lo tamu chasadecha. Avshalom Kol told him before the song, he told him you have to sing it properly, and he sang it properly, even though it doesn't fit the melody.
I mean, it's not hard.
Because Avshalom Kol, who's he's the MC of Chidon Tanakh, he's also a doctor in linguistics, so he's very, very careful with those kinds of things. So he said, "Ha'emet b'shalom ehavu." Where did it say, "Uvamakom hazeh eten shalom"? And I will give peace or put peace in this place. Yeah, Yitzchak?
Haggai.
And the pasuk that starts how?
Gadol yeh kvar habayis hazehu ha'achron.
That's right. Perek bet pasuk tet. Not as I said before. Yeah. So this when he says that Bet HaMikdash, this second Bet HaMikdash will be bigger than the first one. It ends with the Makom Hazeh Eten Shalom.
I remember they asked this in one of the finals. He said, from where is this pasuk? It's not a trick question. It's in today's material. Nava or Laila?
Can you translate it, please?
And it will be pleasing to Hashem, the offering of Yudah and Yerushalayim, like the days of forever, and like of the earlier or ancient years.
Is it Chavkuk?
Well, excuse me, Chavakuk? No. Go ahead, Yitzchak.
Malachi, Shabbos HaGadol.
Yeah, it's both are right, this is was is it was as to Yishai Eisenberg about in 2012, I think it was. And I remember he said Malachi. He said, so he said, what's your problem? Of course it's Malachi. You know, you're right. You know.
So it's at the end of Shemona Esrei.
I think there's a song with it in it because for Zimriel one year they sing that song.
יכול להיות. על מי נאמר, כי הוא כאש מצרף וכבורית מכבסים. על מי נאמר? About whom to say that he is like a fire which purifies and like soap when you do a laundry, when you wash. About whom? Yitzchak.
Hashem.
It's about Malach Hashem. Malach Hashem. And this is where it says, Hineni Sholech Malachi. Malachi doesn't mean the Navi, but Hamalach Shali. You know. על מי נאמר, או על מה נאמר, ארץ חפץ. ארץ חפץ. Desirable land. Well, that's Yitzchak.
Yisrael.
Right. It's you think it's like Eretz Yisrael. It's not. It's Yisrael. Israel. It says Ki tiyu atem eretz chefetz. Remember we mentioned that Marbek is in Malachi, like we had in two other places. Marbek. I mean, it's yes. Malachi is chastising whom about what? Chastising whom about what? I'll give you a hint. Should I give you a hint? I'll tell you Nehemiah Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Bet. That's a big hint. Yitzchak.
I mean, he did a lot of people, but you say Nehemiah, so the people who married non-Jewish wives in addition to their Jewish wives and then abandoned them.
Remember, we talked about Malachi. I did not say Zechariah. Malachi.
No, there's a bris bein ishtecho vein eishes niurecha.
I was thinking, maybe then it's a bad question. Because it says, Hayikba Adam Elohim ki atem kovi'im oti v'amartem bameh kva'anucha ha'ma'aser v'atruma. Okay, so what happens, he's chastising them for not giving Trumot Masrot. And that's the same thing with Nehemiah in Perek Yud Gimel, that he says here, Haviu et kol ha'ma'aser el beit ha'otzar. And that's the same thing what in Nehemiah Perek Yud Gimel. He's saying, you guys got to give properly Trumot Masrot. Then there's a famous pasuk, okay? Im lo eftach lachem et arubot hashamayim barikoti lachem bracha ad blidai. It's a famous pasuk, right? Amichai. Okay.
That's also a famous song if you talk about songs.
Right. But so Lila, where is that pasuk taken from?
Is it Zechariah?
It's a possibility. I'm not going to say yes. No, I'll let Yitzchak.
It's Malachi.
It's also in Perek Gimel of Malachi. But you see, I
And
think
only
you
says
see,
die one time, not like 10 times.
Lila, the advantage I think that Yitzchak has, it's the Haftorah of Shabbat, Shabbat HaGadol. But this is a well-known pasuk that, one could ask. Again, I've asked this in a few different places in our learning. How do we know that the Kohanim or Leviim are supposed to be the teachers of Torah? It's in today's material, as an example. Not a trick question, honestly. Yes, Yitzchak.
I mean, Malachi says that it is important for the Kohanim and Leviim to teach the Torah to the Bnei Yisrael, but before that, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Yoru mishpatecha liYaakov v'sorascha liYisrael.
Yeah, in fact, what happens is that the Mefarshim in Malachi, where it says, Ki siftei kohen yishmeru dat v'torah yivakshu mipihu. So that the Kohanim they're the upholders of the Torah, and the Mefarshim actually bring down the pasuk in Bezot HaBracha. Yoru mishpatecha liYaakov v'toratcha liYisrael. What was Malachi upset about, with the Kohanim? What was he upset about, the Kohanim? Which is, Yitzchak?
They corrupted the treaty of Levi and took bribes, and they were just corrupt, and they brought bad korbanos.
About the korbanot, right? That here, you can't bring a korban which has a mum, and they're allowing that. Would you bring? And the famous thing, it sounds like a pasuk from Mishlei. Bein yechabed av ve'eved adonav. Right? And this keeps on going. The whole thing in this pasuk Perek Aleph. V'im av ani ayeh vodi, v'im adonim ani ayeh morai. So you see that what happens is that Eved has the murah of should have a murah, fear of his master, and if he's a son to the father, it's with the kavod, right? It's very interesting. What holiday would you anticipate that the Goyim would come to the Beit HaMikdash? When? Laila. It's not a trick question.
I have no clue.
Okay, Yitzchak?
Sukkos.
Chag HaSukkot, right. What happens is, and it's very interesting, if you ever flown, let's say from America to Israel around Chag HaSukkot, you will see like a pilgrimage of Christians who will come to Israel for Sukkot. And this is the time that they see it, some tremendous connection between visiting Israel, and Sukkot. We talked about in Amos, Perek Al, Pasuk Av, Shnatayim mipnei harash. So what was that rash? This is in today's material. What was this tremendous noise. When was it? Not a trick question. We talked about it, and then, Vamos Perkal Pasuk Aleph. But in today's material, it's right there. Yes, Yitzchak.
In the days of Uzziah Melech Yehuda.
Right. It says in Perek Yudaled, Pasuk Hey, Kasher nastem mipnei harash bimei Uzziah Melech Yehuda. Right?
So it's mentioned in Amos, of course, like you said, and also in Zechariah.
Well, yeah, Shnatam mipnei harash, but it does not state, exactly referring to Uzziah here. It's outright,
But it says that he was giving nevuah in the days of Uzziah, so it makes sense that it would.
Yes. I hope they wouldn't ask about this. Kimispad Hadad Rimon Bevikat Megidon, because it really doesn't say. You have to look at them first to understand what that's talking about.
A little bit of a tongue twister.
Yes.
Armageddon, right? Maybe.
Actually, it's not. They want to say Hadad Rimon is actually made of two words. Hadad, meaning Melech Aram ben Hadad, and Rimon, the god. And Bevikat Megidon, well, we had Megidon. In fact, we just mentioned today in the Tiyul, actually there were two people who were killed in Megiddo. Who were they? And one of them is referring to this pasuk in Perek Yud Bet, pasuk Yud Aleph. Yitzchak.
Achaziyahu and Ben Yehoram and Yoshiyahu.
Right, and so what happens is Bevikat Megidon or Megiddo is referring to in here. It's referring to the first states Yoshiyahu regarding Paro Necho, right? Mitzrayim. Megiddo. Yeah. That's interesting, by the way. The word Bachala, according to what I understand, is found only once in Tanakh. Imagine Bachala, where in today's material? Bet Chet Lamed Hey. And it means that it was ma'us. It was like abominable. Yes, it's which sefer?
Zechariah.
Zechariah, okay. Now we have Botzetz and Sena, right? Right, Botzetz and Sena. What were those? No, not your question. In that total material, Botzetz and Sena. You'll see what I'm leading up to. Yitzchak.
The rocks between the camp of the Plishtim and camp of Yisrael in days of Shaul and Yonasa.
Right.
What were the names of the places that they were between or next to?
Givas Binyamin and Michmas.
Yeah, it was next to Michmas. That's what we I don't remember who called it Mivtza Yonatan, right? Because Yonatan went up the hill there.
So what happens is, so you had that. So we have also Yachinu Voaz, right? Lila, do you remember where Yachinu Voaz is?
Are those the pillars in the Beit Mikdash?
Yeah, good, okay. And then we have also Noam and Chovelim. Noam and Chovelim. So what were they? Was it 2 books? What were they? You know the famous question: How do you light a fire with if you have 2 sticks? Make sure one of them is a match, right? So well, what were Noam and Chovolim? Yitzchak.
Those were the sticks that Zechariah used to lead the people, or Hashem used to lead the people, sheep, depending how you understand the mashal.
Right. So I was thinking, it's interesting. We said, Vatiktsar et nafsho lamut, right? And here, if you notice in today's material, it says, Vatiktsar nafshi bahem. So we're to say, Vatiktsar et nafsho lamut, and we're to say, Vatiktsar nafshi bahem. Yisra, why don't you try one?
Okay, about Sar Nafshel Lamus, we said last time was by Shimshon.
Shimshon, right? So what happens is in today's tiyul, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. What does the guy say? He says, that the whole situation of Shimshon and Delilah is because the Bnei Yehuda handed over Shimshon to the Plishtim. I said, is he for real? Is he for real? Is he kidding me? The guy's confusing the stuff. The Bnei Yehuda is in Perek Tesvav of Shofetim, and where the Plishtim said to the Bnei Yehuda, listen, can you hand over the Shimshon? And so, he said, okay, tie me up, and then what happens that it was meaningless, versus when Hamza said he met Delilah, and then when Hamza, then all of a sudden she got out of him on the which tried she got out of him, that the answer, his weakness. Yes, Yitzchak.
The fourth try.
The fourth try, right?
Also, there were 20 years in between those two stories.
I don't know. It says it mentions twice that Shimshon was in a shafat for 20 years. But to say that the 20 years difference, I don't recall that it says that. Well,
it's after he kills them with the donkey bone. It then says, and then he judged Bnei Yisrael for 20 years, and then it says the story of Delilah happened.
Yeah, but I don't know if that you can make a direct correlation and assume that. Because it says the last pasuk, by the way, in Perek Zayin, if I recall correctly, it says, and he judged them for 20 years. So it's possible. Right, we did that. Yeah. Remember, it seems that I seem to recall that they've asked more than once about Od Yeshavu Zekenim Uzekenot Berchot Yerushalayim V'ish Mishanto B'yado Merov Yamim. It means there'll be a time that the elders, men and women, will sit in the streets of Yerushalayim, and a man with his stick in his hand from many days. So where is that pasuk? Laila. It's not a trick question. But
Can you just repeat it?
Yeah, in Hebrew and English.
English, please.
Okay. It will happen that the elders, men and women, will sit in the streets of Jerusalem, and a man with his stick in his hand or cane in his hand from many years.
I'm gonna guess Chagai.
It is possible. Yitzchak?
Zechariah.
Happens to be Zechariah. Okay. It's interesting that we know that Kanokineti is referring to whom? Who says Kanokineti? It's not a trick question. In fact, it's mentioned twice in that same chapter. Yitzchak?
Eliyahu.
Eliyahu. But here we had in today's thing, Kineti Litzion Kin Agdola. I was jealous for Zion, a tremendous jealousy and a large anger. I was zealous for her. Yitzchak.
Zechariah.
Zechariah Perichet Pasuk Bet. Al miyu on manemar ir ha'emet, the city of truth.
Yerushalayim.
That is correct. It says v'nikra Yerushalayim ir ha'emet v'har Hashem tzvaot har hakodesh. Yes. I wonder if they could ask in which Sfarim does it mention the 70 years of Galut. In today's material, where does it mention it? In which Sefer? Lila?
I'm pretty sure in Chagai it mentions it once.
Hold on. I don't seem to recall that. I don't seem to recall that. I don't see that. Yitzchak.
In Zechariah, when the Malach says, Abna Silos Rachim, Yerushalayim, Asher Zoamta, Zeh Shivim Shana.
And it also says, Ki tzamtem b'safot b'chamishi u'b'shvi b'zeh shivim shana hatzom tzamtuni ani. Mentions twice. They can't ask this, but just as informational purposes, okay, I don't think they can ask this. Why did Zechariah mention that one should take off the dirty clothing of Yehoshua Kohen HaGadol? Why? Yitzchak.
And so the Farshim say that the dirty clothes represent his kids that marry non-Jewish wives.
Right. So what happens is if you take a look actually in Ezra and Nehemiah, it actually will list the sons that they intermarried with non-Jewish women. And that's what Farshim are referring to. But it actually says, if you look closely, the names of people, who were not so good. We talked about Ud Mutzal Me'esh is Lila referring to whom? Ud Mutzal Me'esh, a spit, is saved from fire. About whom?
I don't know.
Not a trick question, honestly. Yitzchak?
Yehoshua.
It's Yehoshua, great. Right. Why was someone going to measure using a rope? And what was the person going to measure? It's interesting, by the way, by the way, you should just know that, if not mistaken, in Masechet Bava Batra, it talks about actually people taking the ropes to measure distances, Yitzchak.
To measure Yerushalayim, how long its width and how long its length. And we were just learning this, I was learning my Charusa, and the Rashbam says, he brings down on this, he mentions, like, Lamod Kama Arka, Kama Rachba. And my Charusa asked, why is it such a strange language that he doesn't usually use? I told him, because he's quoting the Pasuk in Zechariah.
You see, Amichai, this is what it is. If you know the Nach, it's so learning the Gemara is so much easier. You understand what's going on, And it's just like, But it's I react poorly because I said, to me, see, it bothers me. What can I tell you? I guarantee you that Rebbe Victor Nevensal would never quote something incorrectly. The guy just knows it, And when a person, like, for example, it was I won't say it's a Chassan's Tish, but the Sephardic rabbi was giving a bracha to the Kala, and he says, Atayi lirvava. I'm listening to this. I said, what? A Sephardic rabbi. Normally, Sephardic rabbis, they're golden, right? Atayi lirvava? Well, what's missing? Yitzchak.
Atayi la'alfi revava.
La'alfi revava, right? He's missing a whole word. It's just, and we see what bothers me is that, in my opinion, it diminishes the value of the person who's talking. The Rosh Hashiva, it's like lahavdil. Did I tell you the story with my son-in-law and his ufraf? And the guy gets up there after davening. He says, "This is Shabbat Vayeshev Chanukah," and he says, "Isn't this amazing? Shabbos Chanukah always falls out on Vayeshev." And I'm seeing this. What is he smoking? Is he for real? The majority of times it's Miketz, Vayeshev is minimal. The 14 potential luchot, and just Shabbat Vayeshev is in the total minority. And the other guy is standing up there, and people are sucking it in. Wow. And he's wrong,
Well, they'll find that next year.
Oh, so it's interesting they mentioned that. What happens, I attended a bris last Monday. Okay, in Yerushalayim. Okay, so, there's a famous question. How is it possible that two brothers and the younger brother gets bar mitzvah before the older brother? Okay, so what happens? We know the answer. Okay, so out of curiosity, I'm thinking to myself, okay, the bris, that means he was born, okay, on Adar Aleph. Okay, so but then I say to myself, I wonder if his bar mitzvah year will be a leap year or not, right? So what would be the answer? What would be the answer? It's easy, a very easy answer, by the way. You have to know a few details, and Yitzchak, what's the answer?
Yes, because we're in year 6 right now, and in 13 years will be year 19.
And year 19 is also a leap year. So, ta-da, finished. That's all you have to know. First of all, you have to know that 57 is exactly 303. Okay, multiple divided by 19. So, which is 5072 is a six year of the cycle. So therefore, 13 years later is the 19. And go right? End of story. Simple. But most people say, let me look it up in calendar and dictionary. Who needs that? You know? What is the symbol of Arba'a Harashim for
Smiths, no, something like that.
Smiths, for Smiths. You know, I don't mean like the Smith brothers, you know. Yeah, Lila.
Is it the 4 horns?
Yes, yes.
The translation they use in the
they're
Quran
going
is
to
for
chop off.
craftsmen.
They're going to chop off the horns, right?
Or craftsmen, okay.
Well, craftsmen. But I wanted to look at the craftsmen, you know. But it's very interesting, really interesting, that in most of the Tanakh, I'm not talking about the later Sfarim, most of the Tanakh, when you talk about a month, you'd say Chodesh HaShi'i, Chodesh HaShmini, Chodesh HaShtei, you know, okay? But notice in today's material, we have Kislev, Shvat, you know, so you can see that it's much later, you know, and I think we'll have, I was going to say Ezra and Nehemiah, but they have, in fact, I asked them about the Mishloach Manot, just on Shabbat, I asked somebody about that, you know, where is that mentioned? So of course they say, oh, it's a Megillat Esther. That's thank you very much. That's the easy one. If you think it was so easy, I wouldn't ask you, you know. Right, so here's an example. In Zechariah, you have Chavdal Shvat, you have other dates. For example, we talked in, was it Chagai, you had different dates. Oh, yes. Okay. Where do we have in 2 Sfarim, in today's material, about it mentions Zerubbabel and Yehoshua. Lila.
Is it in Chagai and in Zechariah?
Yeah. Yes. This is a toughie. This is a toughie. We have, just one second. Let's go. No, get over here. Okay. Yes. Where's it mentioned Cherev ish ba'achiv versus ish becherev achiv? Okay, this is 2 words are transposed. One is Cherev ish ba'achiv, and the other one is ish becherev achiv. Yitzchak.
Cherev ish be'achiv is in Zechariah. Ish becherev achiv is that in Shoftim by
Cherev ish ba'achiv happens in Cheskel, Perek Lamed Chet, Pasuk Chaf Aleph, and
Is the other one in Chagai?
in Chagai, ish becherev achiv is Perek Beis, Pasuk Chaf Bet. I said, wait, didn't we have this thing? And then you see just the difference of transpose it.
As Cherev ish bere'ehu, it says in Shmuel Aleph Perek Yud Gimel, v'haya b'yom milchemet. No, I think, no?
I don't know.
No, Shoftim Zayin Kaf Bet is what you said before. Cherev ish bere'ehu, that's the Midyanim, right?
Well, I know. I have Cherev ish ba'achiv versus ish becherev achiv.
So חרב איש באחיו, it says in יחזקאל למ"ח פסוק כ"א,
Right.
וקראתי
That's
עליו
Cherev
לכל
Ishmael.
הרי
And what the second
חרב,
one is,
לכל
it
הרי
says,
חרב נאום
Ish
השם.
becherev achiv is in Chagai.
חגי ב' כ"ב.
Yeah.
In שמואל א' י"ד, it says, ויזעק שאול וכל העם אשר איתו, ויבואו עד המלחמה, והנה הייתה חרב איש ברעהו, מהומה גדולה מאוד, which is the story that we mentioned before, שאול and פלישתים in מכמס, next to בוצץ and סנה. And when Gideon fought the Midian, it says, ויתקעו 300 השופרות, וישם השם את חרב איש ברעהו. ובכל המחנה, וינוס המחנה עד בית השליטה צררתה, עד שפת אבל מחולה על טבעת.
It reminds me with it in today's Tiyul, we passed Emek Ayalon, so he's quoting Yehoshua for that. You know, Shemesh b'Givon Dom v'Yarech be'Emek Ayalon.
Where did it say that somebody chased somebody? Mimichmas Ayalona? Yeah, Yitzchak?
Shmuel base.
With yeah, same story. ויקום ביום ההוא פלישתים ממיחמס אילונה. That's what we שמואל א' י"ד. The same perek with בוצץ and סנה and חרב איש, what we said before, חרב איש ברעהו, or yeah, and also that they got very tired, and then the story of Yonatan and the honey, all in the same perek. ממיחמס אילונה. But who else was in the same area? Like they chased from top all the way to the bottom. There's other stories there.
The Morad, we told in Yeshua the Morad. That's the Perek Yud, Yoshua Yud, no?
Yeah, Morad Bet Choron.
Morad, right?
With the artillery coming from the sky, Bnei El Gavish.
So what happens? So the word El Gavish happens to be mentioned in last week's material in Lamed Chet. V'avnei El Gavish Eish v'kopfrit amtir alav al agapav v'alamim rabim asher ito. And this is, it's interesting, you know, we say Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba, right? Right? In Kaddish. But here it says, V'itgadilti v'hitkadishti. That was in Yecheskel, Perek Lamed Chet, Pasuk Chaf Gimel. You know. Right. Yeah. I mean, this is an easy question. In which Sefer does say, "Ve'heshiv leiv avot al banim v'leiv banim al avotam laila." I will return the hearts of the fathers to the sons, and the hearts of the sons to their fathers.
Malachi?
Malachi. Yeah. Again, you know, this is the advantage of someone who follows the Haftarot. So this is in Shabbat HaGadol, Haftarah. You know. Right. I'm just trying to think. Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on. Yes, I would be remiss about this. Don't do this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's interesting that the question doesn't mention Notice Habakkuk does not mention his father's name, but yet says he's a Navi, and the word, I noticed the word Hamasa in the earlier parts of the Trasa is not mentioned, but later on they say Masa of, you have in Habakkuk, you have in the later Nevi'im, that terminology.
It's interesting because Yirmiyahu Hanavi told them not to use the word masa.
I think it's also mentioned in Zechariah.
Yeah, I'm saying, like I said, the later things, and there definitely is a time difference, time period difference between the earlier Nevi'im in Tresa versus, starting from Habakkuk is probably the Beit HaMikdash has been destroyed, and you have the Bavliim. That's he's talking about against Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, then you have Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi already, towards the. First of all, you have Daryavish, right? Daryavish HaMelech, and you could see that it's in time, let's say, Ezra Nehemiah and that type of period. So already the Beit HaMikdash, we're talking about, it's way past, most of the Nevi'im, relatively speaking. Like I said, the major thing of, as I said, Habakkuk is, it talks about Chuban Yerushalayim by the Bavliim and Galut Yehuda. That's the main. Yes. It's interesting that one of the Yud Gimel Ikarim by the Rambam is Ima Chakalot Vim Yitmameat Techakelo, right? At Mashiach, right? Where is that mentioned? Right? Where is that mentioned? Is in
in the 12th midah of just right, the 12th Ani Ma'amin at the end of the tefillah.
Right. But where else is it mentioned? Yitzchak.
In Habakkuk.
In Habakkuk, it says in Perek Beis, Pasuk Gimel, says, Im yitmamah chakelo ki bo yavo lo ya'acher.
Then they ask, it says, Ve'af al pi she'yitmameh, right? It says, that's what the Ani Ma'amin says.
But it says, ki bo yavo, he's going to come, he's not, won't be late. Then there's another phrase that in Habakkuk, B'tzadik be'emunato yichyeh. So, I would think that if one could hone in on certain phrases, so even if you don't know the whole pasuk, but if you know certain parts of the pasuk, you can identify that it's in, let's say in this case, B'tzadik be'emunato yichyeh is in, or for example, both that phrase and Ki od chazon lamoed, both of them are in Habakkuk. I mentioned the style, stylistically, of Habakkuk. Selah mentioned a few places. It says, Bani Bashem Eloza Agila Belo Hey Ishi. It sounds like Tehillim, but it happens to be Habakkuk. Yes, we talked about that Shemesh b'Givon Dom v'Yarech be'Emek Ayalon. That was what? What happened there? Not your question. You'll see what I'm going to be leading to. Laila. What's that about?
Can you just repeat it, please? My brother made a noise and I didn't hear.
Okay, so it says the saying Shemesh begivon dom v'yareach be'emek ayalon. What happened there?
I don't know.
Okay, Yitzchak.
Yoshua stopped the sun when they were fighting against all the other nations that came to attack Givon.
So you know something? I perceive that in today's material, there is an allusion to that. You know, it says, Shemesh yareach amad zvula. L'ochitzecha yalecho lenoga v'rak chanitecha. When I saw Shemesh yareach amad zvula. So to me, what automatically I associated was with Yoshua Parak Yud. You know, Shemesh begivon dom. Yeah. Also, what I took away from in Habakkuk, he has certain phrases like "Bihitamhu timahu, kifoal poel." He has also "Hoi botzea betza ra leveto." So similar words, you know, that he uses, you know, they sound similar. You know, but od chazon lamoed and imi tmamalo ve'atzadik be'emuto yechia, right? Yeah, of course, we know that Hashem bechal kodsho has mipanav kol haaretz. Again, that's the haftorah of Shavuot, second day in Chutz La'aretz. Yeah. Yes. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Just notice this. There's a pasuk in Habakkuk, says in Perek Gimel, pasuk Hey, Lefanav yelech daver v'yetzei reshef l'raglav. What does reshef mean? They're not going to answer this, but you'll see why I'm going to mention this. What is reshef? Yes, Yitzchak.
The Gemara Bracha says either it means mazikin or it means yisurin.
Really interesting. The Mefarshim on the spot say reshef happens to be gachale eish. So why? I mean, I just was looking right now. It's, you know, I'm not the Mefarshim. I have a note that reshef means gachale eish, which means that I looked up and that's what the Mefarshim say. So it's interesting.
The Gemara has from Mizera of Uluchume Reshef, the Ketev Meriri. So either Reshef goes with Mizera of, so it's Yisurin, or Reshef goes with Ketev Meriri, so it's like Shadim.
But what comes to mind for me, okay, how did they get Gachle Eish? So if the concept that Zashrats are interchangeable, okay, the Shin and Tzadik are interchangeable. Okay, so if I instead of Reshef, I would have Retzef. What would come to mind? What would come to mind if instead of Reshef, it's Retzef, and then Gachleish could make a lot of sense. What? Yes, Yitzchak? Interesting. I was thinking more of... I was thinking of Yeshayahu Perek Vav. You know, the Ritzpah is like tongues in regarding hot stuff, like coals. So it makes sense that Reshef would be like Retzef Ritzpah, and it would be coal, hot. That's why I'd say Gachle Eish. It'd be interesting to see what this is in the Habakkuk, right? Habakkuk we said is Beis Gimel Hey. Gimel Hey. Okay, let's see. Gimel Hey. Okay. Gimel Hey. Oh, and he has actually, the Mitzvah Zion says, Reshef Gachla Eish Kmo Rishafer Rishpe Eish in Shir Hashirim Pekches. Okay. It's very interesting. The Radak says, Kmo davar va'inyan kaful b'milot shonot. Chen uluchume reshef hu choli hakadachat. Interesting. Shu chama hasorefet umimita mehera. So something very hot. Okay. Which reminds me, so I mean, it's something hot, okay? So it reminds me that I remember I was learning with somebody, Masechet Tanit, and we say, Tsurba me Rabbanan. What is Tsurba me Rabbanan? The Gemara. What is that? Yes, not your question. Yitzchak?
It's like one of the Talmidei Chachamim.
But it's interesting that I think in the Otsar HaGaonim says that Tsurba is a strange word, by the way. So it says, is in the Torah, it says Tsarebet. Tsarebet happens to be one of the Negaim, I think. Okay. And Tsarebet is hot. Meaning, if you take a look at the Gemara, it says a Tzumim Rabbanan who gets very excited and heated up. Okay, so and the Osagom says it comes from Tsarevet in the Torah, means hot. So it's just interesting. To me, I like languages and just to see how it all connects. Yeah, we talked about Sela, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah, we said that. We said another phrase in Chagai, as I see it, is Simu levavachem. He keeps on. He uses that terminology. Simu levavachem in Chagai. You know, and there's another famous phrase in our material. Bahamistaker mistaker el tzror nakuv. And the person who is rewarded will reward with a hole, you know, in the where is that from? Mistaker el tzror nakuv. Where is it from? Amichai. Okay, Yitzchak.
Chagai.
Happens to be Chagai. Now, don't forget that starting from Chagai and towards the end, we can't talk about in the years of Daryavesh, right? And this is a time of Shivat Tzion. Okay, so that's the concept. By the way, it's interesting. Sometimes it's Shaltiel, sometimes it's Sha'altiel, but it's the same person, you know. Zerubbabel ben Shaltiel or Sha'altiel. Ah, yes. Ooh, yes. Almine Amar Lo v'chayil v'lo v'choach kim beruchi Amar Hashem tzvaot. Almi Amar Lo v'chayil v'lo v'choach kim beruchi Amar Hashem tzvaot. And where is that from? Yeah, Yitzchak.
It's about Zerubbabel, and it's from Sefer Zechariah. And Sarah of Shabbos Hanukkah and Bahalos.
Shabbos Chanukah or Bahalotecha, correct? Yeah. What are the representation? What do they represent? The Shnei Hazitim Ha'eleh, that there are two olive trees next to the menorah. What do they represent? Lila?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's fair. Yitzchak?
The Shnei B'nai Hayitzar that are Omdim al Adon Kol Haaretz.
Right. See, they can't ask you, they can't expect you to say, well, it represents the Kuhuna and Malchut. Because you know why? Because in both of them, both the Kohanim and the Malchut are anointed using Shemen, you know. And you have Yoshua and Zerubbabel representing each side of that. The Yoshua representing the Kuhuna, and Zerubbabel is the Malchut. But you can just say Shnei B'nei Hayitzar, right? Mm-hmm. Out of curiosity, you know, when you're gonna have to use two places, okay, where it says in Zechariah, the Ish Mishanto Biyado Merov Yamim. So how old in good times, what would be a nice number for a zaken? Is it 50? Is it 120? Is it 100? Is it 70? You know, Laila.
Is it 100?
Why do you say 100?
I think in one of the books last week, it said like, this is or 2 weeks ago.
You mean in Sefer Yeshayahu at the end, right? Was it either Samach Al or Samach Hey? Probably Samach Hey, I guess. No, it's on the left-hand page towards the top. Just to make sure. No, it's not. We know it's not Samach Vav. That's obviously. It's Samach Hey Pasuk Chaf. Lo yeh misham od ul yamim v'zaken asher lo yimalei et yamav ki hanar ben 100 shana yamut v'achote ben 100 shana yikulal.
Well, if the Nar is 100, then that makes it sound like the Zaken is not 100. He's even more than 100.
That's a minimum of 100. It's interesting that in Zechariah it mentions, you know, Emet and Mishpat together. If you notice that. So again, what I'm trying to say is that these are things that I guess if they ask you, you say, oh, that should trigger possibly. Like we know, for example, Mishpat Utzdaka. But in which sefer would you expect to see that? Mishpat Tzedakah. Not your question. Yitzchak.
Yeshayahu.
Yeshayahu. So here you have, you know, you have also Shalom, Emet v'Shalom, you know, Emet v'Shalom. There's certain, like, oh yeah, that this, it's a giveaway. It's just how I would perceive it, but what do I know? It's interesting that you notice it says in our material, Mibor ein mayim bo. So of course, what does that come to mind? Lila.
I know that's not what the pasuk is, but the first thing I think of is Yosef, but it's En Bo Maim Yosef, I think.
Right. Actually, the Gaon Mivilna learns, it comes to, he connects this again, that or not always, but Vayeshev does land sometimes on Shabbat Chanukah. So what happens is there's a Jewish law that you can't have a menorah, Chanukiah, higher than 20 amot from, let's say, from where you're living. So, and why is that? It's because just like sukkah, you can't have a sukkah higher than 20, even if it's sturdy, it's ayin lo sholetet, in a sholetet, okay? So he wants to say that with Yosef, what does Rashi say? It says that, Rashi says, Maim ein bo, aval nechashim ba'akravim, there were. So how can we not know this? Why? Because he wants to say that the bore was at least 20 amot deep. Okay, therefore, ayin in a sholetet bo, they can't make it out. So that's why you couldn't tell that they were nechashim and akravim. Yes, there was no water, but there were other things, but they couldn't tell it because it was so far deep. The same concept of 20 amot, high or 20 amot deep. It was not discernible. It's the Gaon. The Gra could come up with this stuff, Yes, Yitzchak, you want to say something?
No, I say because the reason why it comes up with this is that the Gemara in Shabbos, when it's talking about Hanukkah, it mentions this Haborek Momayim like randomly in the middle. And it seems like because it's just the same Amora who said it, but he said it has to do with Hanukkah also.
Right. So I'm saying that, but he ties the Gaon gives that slight touch. Only the Gaon can make that touch, Just as an FYI, okay. It says, in Sefer Zechariah, Perek Yod, it's part of our material, "V'hashivotim me'eretz Mitzrayim u'me'ashur akabetzem ve'el eretz Gil'ad u'Lebanon aviyem," okay, "v'lo yimatzeh lahem." I can't answer this, but I just want to know, and you'll see why I bring it up. What does "v'lo yimatzeh lahem"? Yes, Yitzchak.
That there'll be so many that they won't fit in all those places.
The word yimatzeh, where do we have it in somewhere else in our material? In our Torah material? Yeah.
Vayvukash hadavar vayimatzeh.
See, I was thinking in Bamidbar, Perek Yud Al Pasuk Chav Beis, Hatzonu v'akar yishadchem b'lo matzalahem. It's the same thing. It will not suffice. Lo yimatzeh lahem. That's like a mitzvah. It will not suffice. Lo yaspik lahem. That's the same thing of in Bahalosecha. Of course, Yitzchak Laila said it was in the 6th Aliyah. You're right, 6th Aliyah of Bahalosecha. By the way, it's interesting. I was learning this, and I said, "Oh, again, I can't ask you this, but it says, "Vayomer Hashem Elai hashlicheu el hayotzer eder hayekar asher yakartim alehem." What does el hayotzer mean? Yitzchak?
Really, El Ha'otzar.
Right. And what do you say from this? I keep on mentioning this. The letters Aleph, Hey, Vav, Yud are interchangeable. So instead of the Yud, it becomes an Aleph. That's how you get El Ha. Instead of Ha Yotzer, excuse me, it's Ha'otzar. Which is Otzar Beit Hashem. But I mean, again, once you know these things, then you can recognize that, right? We talked about that. Be careful. It says, "Ba'alumi de shana v'shana." You have to be careful. You know. Again, it's interesting. We see this concept repeating. Okay, like in Zechariah and Melachim Aleph Perek Ches. What was one of the purposes of the Beit HaMikdash? What was one of the purposes? Now, not your question, just so we understand. Go ahead, Yitzchak.
For all the nations of the world to come to bow to Hashem.
Right, V'gam hanochri, you know, V'ru chol amei haaretz. And what happens over here, you have in Zechariah, you're saying, V'alu midei shana v'shana lishtachavod lemelech Hashem tzvaot l'chogeg chag HaSukkot. That they're coming to the Beit HaMikdash to, you know, recognize Hashem. It's a repeating theme that we see this. In Malachi, it's something similar that you have in Yeshayahu Perek Aleph, where it says that, you know, Hashem has no need for the korban which you bring, you know, but it's a slightly different, you know, vantage point. Just remember.
Also, we just read on Shabbos, "Chayvetz laHashem ve'olo suzvachim shmo kol Hashem."
You mean Shmuel Aleph Perek Tesvav? I'm just going over the. I thought that it was the Sefer Zikaron. 1 second. Just 1 second. Just want to look at something quickly. No. Just 1 second. We know where to look. Right. So it says one place, Ktov Zot Zikaron Basefer, and another place says Sefer Zikaron Lefanav. Right? So where does it say Ktov Zot Zikaron Basefer versus Sefer Zikaron Lefanav? Vayikatev Sefer Zikaron Lefanav. Okay, similar, but okay, where does each one mention? Okay, go ahead, Yitzchak.
Ksov Zot Zikaron Basefer, we're going to read on Purim, is about Amalek, and Sefer Zikaron Lefanav is a Malachi about the Tzaddikim.
Right. So just want okay. I remember this many decades ago. So I leaned to, by Yavo Amalek. It's unbelievable. It was just like yesterday. And after the third Aliyah, the Kohen calls up the rabbi. He asked me, aren't you going to read the 10th pasuk? Yeah. Say the third bracha. It says the second bracha. He goes to the rabbi. He says, isn't he going to say this 10th pasuk? You know? I said, listen, I've been learning for many years. And I've been learning for decades, and I've learned this many years. There's no question. Where's the 10th pasuk? Come on, get with the program here.
Some people read the pasuk again with Zecher and Zecher over there also.
Oh, this is a very interesting thing that you mentioned. This is unbelievable. First time I've seen this. In actual, what I have seen, for example, Yeshivat Keren B'Yavneh, this goes back in the early 70s, is that to be Yotzei Parsha Zachar, you'd have somebody reading it in, let's say, Havara Sfaradit of Israel, in Israel, right? Someone will learn Ashkenazis, right? Someone will learn it, let's say, Yemenite, So by us, the first person, the rabbi of the shul, learned it Havara Sfaradit. Then a person learned it like from Ashkenazis. The third person learned it Algerian, Tamei Mikra, whatever. But it's interesting that the rabbi and the person from Algiers did not say Timchaes Zecher Amalek, Timchaes Zecher Amalek, nor did they repeat the pasuk. Okay, while the person from England, he said Timchaes Zecher Amalek, Timchaes Zecher Amalek. So I never saw that, that you just read it the way Timchaes Zecher Amalek. So I said, listen, I'm just curious, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I've never seen it. So he showed me a sefer that I guess that's different shuls hold by, and says that there is no safek, and so therefore you don't repeat it. I guess the shul has that custom, But clearly, when I was growing up, you only said Timches Zeich Amalek, and then you right away said Timches Zeich Amalek. And then for many years, they would repeat they'd say the whole pasuk, Timches Zecher Amalek, and then they would say the whole pasuk, Timches Zecher Amalek, but not to say.
They say the reason why pasuk is because it shouldn't be like Tov K'dei Dibur and make it sound like you're correcting yourself.
So what happens? You say the whole. That's what you say the whole pasuk over, But here they not zilch, and they said this sefer, which I guess for Gabaim, said no problem. Okay, you learn something new every day. It's just interesting. Point of fact. Anyhow, I'm kind of done on this material. Next week, notice, I'll tell you, I always find Mishlei hard, really hard. It's like, I don't know if they ask questions from Mishlei, for example, in the first set of questions, for the stage, Amichai, yes or no? I have no idea. Even if you knew, you can't tell.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to be on the stage yet.
Yeah. So to me, I've seen where in contests in the past, they want to know, do you know from which sefer it is, I had students who, kol hakavod, who cares? Please, why? That you just had, they knew Mishlei, the stuff cold. It's really tough, Tilim, this section, was it pay? Tilim is, wait, 1 second. Tilim is pay through tzaddik, I have not learned it. Mishlei I've learned, but this goes back almost like 10 years ago. Eov was done, what I've done. Kohelet never had to go over. As I've done Chemya and Divrei Hayamim. I haven't done Divrei Bet in a long time. So what happens, that's why I figured, let's spend time, because these are things that are not common to go over, you know. So we have, for next week, we have Tehillim, Mishlei, Iyov, Ruth, and Kohelet. You know, you'll see that in Ruth, if I recall correctly, one of the common themes is Chesed, is throughout. You know, we talked about Ploni Almoni, right? That 3 times in Tanakh. One in Perek Daled, in Ruth. One was in Shmuel Aleph, Perek Chaf Aleph, right? Another one was in Mlachim Beis, I think Perek Vav. Perek Vav was Zayin, I think it's Vav. You know, with Aram, right? Ploni Almoni. Right, another one was with David, and when he went to Nov, right? Ploni Almoni. So normally Ploni Almoni is a place, but obviously not in Ruth Perek Daled, from what I seem to recall. Okay, so let's take the time and let's do Tehillim, Mishlei, Iyov, Ruth, and Kohelet. Okay, questions? I apologize.
Okay, I'll just stop the recording now for the
Yeah.
generations to come.